it's Kira, and welcome to another episode of Love Tester. So, I know this game isn't really a dating sim, but since it makes itself look like one, and hopefully this video will be up around Halloween, I thought this game would be a good fit. So, this video, we will be talking about Doki Doki Literature Club. I will point out that I did play the Plus version for the Switch, though it doesn't really affect the main story. It is something to keep in mind. So a little backstory. I'm not very good at playing games or watching horror movies. However, I am okay watching people play horror games on YouTube, as the person's commentary kind of removes some of the horror element and actually makes it quite funny. In this case, I have seen a few playthroughs of the original Doki Doki Literature Club, so I knew there wasn't anything that could really scare me in terms of visuals. It's kind of like walking through a fairground haunted house 10 times, and by the 5th or 6th time, you know what's going to jump out and when, so you're no longer surprised. Just a heads up, this is going to contain spoilers, though can it really be considered spoilers when the game has been out several years now? Anyway, we're getting distracted. So I started the game, and I didn't have any girl I was going after in particular. I'm personally not attracted to girls, so I saw this as trying to make friends rather than fall in love. So for the first day, I picked words that would be favoured towards Natsuki, and then on the second day for Sayori. Apparently this annoyed Yuri a lot, because after the second poem, she was basically fuming and refused to read any more of my poems and wouldn't talk to me. Fast forward to when you pick who to prepare for the festival with. For the first time, I chose Monica, thinking she might not go all crazy considering I picked her first, and I wasn't able to go with that plan. This is an example of something bad in game design, but I'll go into more detail later because it does happen again. Anyway, I picked Natsuki since in reality, if given the choice, I would prefer bacon rather than cutting up strips of paper. Then we get to the emotional part of Sayori talking about her depression. I didn't understand where she was coming from. Unfortunately, a common trait in autistic people is both anxiety and depression. It is only made worse by being in a world that claims to accept us, but in reality, it really doesn't. Though this scene did trigger another autistic trait, eye for detail. A lot of autistic people are able to notice things that people without the condition might not. In this case, I noticed that Sayori's ceiling was smooth. No light fixtures, no hooks. Nothing that a rope or anything could be hung from. Anyway, I got through the bacon with Natsuki and ran into Sayori again. It gives you the option to say if you love her or that if you are just friends. This choice literally does not matter at all. That is because it and the other choice I mentioned earlier before are referred to as illusion of choice, and it is really bad in game design. It is when a game offers you a choice when in reality the choice does not matter, and the game basically tells you you're wrong and goes on with the plot as if nothing happened. There are a few occasions that, if used correctly, the illusion of choice can be smart or funny, like the choice given at the start of We Happy Few, where if you choose to take the joy, the end credits will start playing, or in A Date with Markiplier. I know it isn't a game, but it is a choose-your-own adventure, so it kind of works. When Markiplier offers you 4 options, but when you look at them, you realise that there is actually only one real answer, which makes sense seeing as earlier he said he was sick of giving people choices. So I picked the love option, knowing it didn't matter, which leads us to the scene that everyone knows about. I'm not going to mention what this thing is because I hopefully want YouTube to monetize this video one day, but you do get the hint Monica knows more than she is letting on, by saying something along the lines of, "You left her hanging." So now we are in the half of the game when it is actually a horror game, and I decided to save and stop playing for the night, since at this point it was around 11 PM at night and I was wanting to sleep. When I launched the game the next day, I saw something that actually answered a question I have had for literally months at this point. Rewind to when the Plus version was announced for the Switch and I pre-ordered it. I was wondering how you were able to delete Monica and characters in this since you can't access game files in a Switch like you can on a computer. I asked some people about this and one of them replied, when you load up the game it makes a fake interface. That both answered and raised more questions. Mostly I was confused by what they meant by a fake interface. I decided to leave it for then and see what would happen when I played the game. When I launched the game on the second day, I realized that it doesn't just open the game up automatically, but instead shows you a fake desktop, which answered the fake interface question, which allows you to access the game files as well as content for the Plus version of the game. I only ended up playing the horror section of the game for around 30 minutes, and didn't end up picking up the game for several weeks because of one thing. You are probably wondering what that thing is, considering I said I was used to the visuals. Well, it wasn't the visuals that was the problem, it was the music/audio. One of the main traits found in autistic people is known as sensory sensitivity. While I don't know exactly what causes this, it makes all the senses other than speech a lot higher than average and could make you feel like you're experiencing life at double the amount of everyone else. This was the case here. The music was sped up and distorted so much it started to physically hurt me. It was similar to a dog's reaction to a dog whistle. It did take a long time for me to continue the game because of the pain associated with it, and me remembering to have the volume at 0 when I next played. I'll admit it was kind of funny playing the game with no volume, and when Monica asked, "Can anyone hear me?" I was like, "Nope." It was really uncomfortable when you spend time with Yuri and she is starting to snap and get really close to you. I don't think this is an autistic thing. I think a lot of people want to keep their personal space when talking to someone. I understand that Yuri is supposed to be a yandere, but a lot of interactions with her in the second half of the game were super uncomfortable, to the point I was like, can I skip Yuri's part of the poem reading? I will admit that since the Switch doesn't have a cursor to make selections with, when it makes you have to choose Monica the second time, it just moved around the different options. Another reason I waited before playing the game again was to make sure that I was alone while playing it. It was because I didn't want anyone to walk in during the part after Yuri snapped. This part also includes another example of illusion of choice, because it doesn't matter if you say you love Yuri or not. We then get to the main event, so to speak, of Monica admitting her plan and that she was doing things this whole time. And can we just admit that while Yuri is supposed to be the yandere, Monica is the true yandere of this game. I mean, she literally got rid of her friends in a violent way and basically rewritten the world she was in just so she could confess to the player. Again, it's kind of funny that Monica was indicating the player probably doesn't understand anything that is happening. I'm just sitting here on the other side of the table thinking, no, I've seen you do this plan multiple times before. So I deleted Monica and got through the rest of the game just fine, but then found they did make one good change when moving the game from computer to console. When the game is deleted, it does not delete the fake interface, so you are able to restart and repair the game so that you can play again. Which makes sense since the Plus version has a lot of bonus content in terms of art, but the art can only be unlocked by meeting various conditions, so you would have to play the game multiple times to unlock it. I think also if the stuff you unlocked during the game got deleted at the end, while it might be very Unis honesty, it would make a lot of people mad, including myself probably. So that was Doki Doki Literature Club. What do I think? While it can't really be judged as a dating sim since that isn't really the genre it belongs to, I mean the cover and the advertising for the plush version states that it is a psychological horror. As a horror game, it does fit well into the genre. It does lull you into a false sense of security with the first half, and doesn't just rely on jump scares like a lot of horror games in recent years. In fact, it could be considered a horror that lingers, a horror game that people are still scared of, even after you walk away from it, which hasn't been around much in recent years. Is this game suitable for autistic people? In my personal opinion, I would be leaning towards no. It's a combination of the music I mentioned earlier, as well as the character getting really close and the dialogue getting intense without giving a person a chance to react. I think the people that would be recommended for this game are people who are into psychological horror, or people who have heard of this game and have either seen a lot about it or are not scared by these kinds of themes. So I know this is a bit of a strange review, but it's Halloween, so it makes sense to be a bit weird. Happy Halloween, everyone. Don't let the love bugs bite. I'll see you again in another video.